and so we're scheduled to go through to 11, but we're going to be doing our best to get finished before 10:30. So we'll see how things go. I don't want you to hold back from asking questions and so on, of course, but yeah, just try and keep it brief and to the point as much as possible. So with that, we're starting off with the Heritage, Environment and Regulatory Group update, and hand over to Mr. Cook.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Yes, pleased to present the Heritage, Environment and Regulatory Group report for the period. Some good increases in activity across the main reporting lines. Palmerston landfill and the coastal remediation project is on schedule. DPR chapters are progressing well. There's officers have a lot of work to do in relation to those after Christmas to get them ready to bring to council at the end of February. Two key pieces of work that we will be bringing to you before Christmas I mentioned in there, which is the WMMP, the Waste Minimisation and Management Plan, and the Dangerous, Affected and Insanitary Buildings Policy. In addition, this period we've also added an update on the civil defence readiness and resilience activity that we've been undertaking. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. I'll just kick things off just with the coastal landfill remediation project. So the two dump sites on Beach Road and the Hampden landfill. Have we got a timeline for what's happening when, just so we can share that with the community? And came from a question about the community board last night. They're not aware of what, when these things are going to be actually getting underway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, yes, we do have a project plan from the lead contractors. It has only been running for a few weeks relatively to the scale of the project. So I'd like to take the opportunity for officers to verify that they're on schedule and confirm that.
Yep.
And bring that back in the next activity report or a separate report to council.
Yeah. No, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Hopkins and Councillor Thompson.
Look, one from me, Mr. Cook, and it just relates to the information on page 8, the district plan review. Now that's going to come back to council. Well, the recommendations from the subcommittee are going to come back to council for adoption in February. We had a discussion about this, I think, at the last district plan review subcommittee meeting. What I want to ask you is, I would like to see those documents available for people to look at in advance of being adopted before Christmas, over the Christmas holiday period. I think it would help submitters in understanding and so forth. So is it possible for us to, if you like, have on our council Facebook, our council website, or council page, that those items for people to look at, noting that they are to be adopted formally in February, but to have that available for perusal, say pre-Christmas onwards.
Thank you, through the chair. I'd have to say that it's unlikely that we would have done all the amendments that the councillors have requested through the district plan subcommittee process to have those completed before Christmas. We can endeavour to get them onto the council system as they become available or as they are completed. But given that the last district plan subcommittee is actually on the 18th and there's still a number of chapters to go through, I think that would be an unrealistic expectation on staff.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd appreciate that if you could get them on the website as they are prepared, even if the total document's not available pre-Christmas, it would be helpful. I think it would be good and useful and good gesture for the community and those who are interested if whatever's available was available to be seen.
I'll just add to that. Obviously, we've got the information that's gone through from each of the district plan review subcommittee meetings. if they, even if it's pointed to that, but there needs to be obviously the rider that some changes have been made to these, which will be published when the amendments have been made, but something like that, so that at least the community can see what we are talking about, what we're working on, and have a bit of an indication, even if it doesn't include all of the updates that we've asked for. Yeah, do you want to respond, Mr. Cook?
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Basically, the district plan subcommittee material has been publicly available and will remain publicly available, so it is all up there, along with the recordings of the meeting. So the access is there, maybe just not as accessible as perhaps you'd desire.
Yeah, as I say, if we can just add a note to each of those that they have been amended in different ways, that would be helpful. Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 12, Mr. Cook, we talk about our civil defence readiness and resilience. For some time, we've been talking about emergency generators and sat phones strategically around the district. Can I just ask on our behalf an update on where we are? I'd hate for us to have a major event and still be talking about what we're doing to get ready for it.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson, through the chair. Yes, I think we'd all hate to have a major event, whether we've bought generators, sat phones, or lifeboats. We have been doing some work in the background. We're conscious that it's very easy to buy shiny things and put them on shelves, and we need to use that money wisely to deploy equipment and resources where it will be most effective and most needed. And we hope to be able to bring council more information on that in the first quarter next year, where we've looked at the work that other districts around the country have done, equipment that they've purchased, how they've deployed it, and who is set up ready to use it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Halili.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Cook, for organising the community preparedness workshop with our Pacific community. We look forward to delivering more just around education and just supporting to grow their personal responsibility and preparedness. I just think there needs to be a bigger investment in terms of supporting communities to just to have that knowledge and understanding to be prepared, and roll it out across other community groups as well. I think that it could be a focus that we could aim for the first quarter of next year.
Any other questions or comments? No. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Cook, and thank you to your team for the information that they've been able to share. Now move on to people in transformation and the IS IS group update. And we've got Chloe Searle here, so welcome, Chloe. Not sure if you want to say anything as an introduction, otherwise we'll move straight to questions.
Just briefly as an introduction, we hope to have some more of the team joining us shortly. But library manager Jenny Bean is on leave, so any library questions, just put them through to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and welcome to the team. Councillors, questions, comments? Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I've got 4 questions. Can I ask them all together, or how would you like us to
if they're all on the same topic, just together, or else if
well,
they're different?
The first one is the library on page 20.
Yep.
I know it's only a monthly figure. The borrowers as a percentage of population showing at 68% relative to 66% in October of last year. I'm just curious to know how this is all calculated, because when the resident survey was done recently, only 42% of that demographically more accurate sample had actually used the library over the year. So I'm trying to equate 42% of a district-wide survey to 68% of the supposedly district population in 1 month. And I wonder if somebody can explain that for me. There's a couple of other, the other questions relate to other areas, so I might just leave that one there at the moment.
Through the chair, I will need to follow that up with the library manager, Jenny Bean, but my understanding is that 68% calculation comes from the number of people registered in the system. So whether they consider themselves active users when surveyed may be another question, but that's our data of the percentage of people we have with a library card recorded in the system. But I will find out more and get back to you, Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you. Okay, can somebody just on page 22, just this reference to the Oamaru Opera House Cafe, and there's a sentence here, that food guide services have been postponed, which will allow time to make sure we get this right, rather than rushing into providing items on the menu. It just seems to me that there's sort of maybe something afoot there that the sentence hints at, but doesn't fully explain. Can we get a bit more detail about that, please?
Through the chair, I don't think we have Francis McElhinney online today. I think they're short of a few staff. So again, that one might be something that I need to go back and get some further answers on. But my understanding is with that food guy who has been working on the catering for Opera House events, there has been some discussion about whether some more food can be offered through the cafe, but wanting other businesses in town and what exactly that looks like to ensure that it's not replicating what other businesses are doing. So I believe that has been, the comment there, allowing time to make sure we get this right, is to make sure that it appeals to the customers who are using the Opera House primarily as a meeting venue rather than as a cafe, and just working through that. So I don't think there's any sort of firm direction to it. It's more just looking at that opportunity that's provided by having him already using that facility for his business.
I imagine there could be complications given that he does catering outside of the Opera House, and maybe, it's weighing up the commitments that he has with that and whether he can still deliver on a daily basis, consistent service. Yes, you had further couple of questions.
Two more questions, one about the gallery, one about the museum. On page 26, we're told the Friends of the Forester Gallery applications to the Stout Trust and the Meridian Power Up Community Fund were declined. What were they for, and do we know why they were declined? And finally, on page 28, if you look at the museum visitor numbers, the graph simply doesn't. To me, it doesn't. I look at the numbers and I look at the barcodes, and they just don't tally up. If I look at October over the 3 years, and we're showing that, September, we had, no, that's fine. I've suddenly realised that I was, yep, that's fine. I'll drop that one. Just the
Tell us more.
No, I'm sorry. Yes,
It's okay.
The comparison of the 2 months for this year does make sense. Although, no, that's fine. No, just look at the
We'll go to the first one.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Right. Those two applications were towards the overall capital funds for the gallery extension project. The reasons for them being declined were that Meridian considered we were outside of their boundaries, which I strenuously disagree with, given we serve the entire Waitaki district. But as the fund holder, that is their decision to say that we fall outside their boundaries. Technically, Oamaru does fall outside the boundaries of that fund, even though we are the public gallery for the Waitaki district, which is where their fund covers. So we'll agree to disagree with Meridian on that one. And the application for the Stout Trust, again, was also for the project. And the reason for their declining the application from the Friends was that they wanted us to conduct further fundraising. The timing for that application was it was submitted before we had the grant from central government. We did update them that we'd received that grant, but whether that information made it to the meeting, given it wasn't part of the full application, we will be applying to them again next year.
Thank you.
Just on the gallery project, a similar question to one I asked before. Do you have a timeline for how the project's going to progress?
Through the chair, the timeline is being updated at the moment by Grant Roads to review the Gantt chart, but my understanding is we're not expecting any substantial changes to that timeline, so we'll be looking to apply for building consent in the first quarter of next year. Then we will be looking to go through the procurement and tender process around mid next year, and with a view to starting construction work around October next year. So obviously a few different steps to work through there, and in parallel with that, ongoing fundraising for the rest of the capital costs, which, you know, we'll need to wait until the tender until we can finally know exactly what that figure is, but active fundraising continuing throughout. And I'm also moving into consideration for fundraising for fit out aspects. So spent some time with the team last week looking at what smaller aspects but very important things we need, such as, you know, chairs for the education room and who we might go to for funding for those.
Okay. And have we got the plans? It's you know, final drawing stage, or where are they at?
The plans are with Andrew Duckworth, who's been working on those, just being finalised ahead of that building consent. So getting input from specialist engineers and so forth. Hopefully, it's Grant nodding along in the background there.
Mostly, yeah.
So yes, getting input from fire engineers, seismic input. We had some geotechnical assessment done in the backyard of the gallery 2 weeks ago, with, you know, pleasing results there in terms of the design for the foundations. So, yep, I think we're on track there.
Anything you want to add, Grant? Or are you...
I was just going to say we're working on a full detailed design for structural design. Yeah, so we're currently working through that full detailed design. There's quite a lot involved with that, with mechanical services, fire, structural, and so forth. So that's the aim, to really have that full detailed design through by March, April next year. So we'll be applying for building consent at that stage. In tandem, we'll be getting underway with the procurement to go out to the find a head contractor. So that's the kind of time frame. We've really got good 4 or 5 months of that detailed work to do.
Thank you very much. Councillors, any other questions from the group update? No tricky questions on the IS group? No. Very happy. Okay, well, thanks very much to the team for coming along. Appreciate the updates, and yeah, all the best with the project, Chloe, and all the work that the IS team is also doing. I know there's a lot of important stuff happening to make life easier for the public and staff dealing with council online. So thank you. Okay, we now move to Grants and Awards Subcommittee, and details the grants allocations for October through to December. And not sure whether Mrs. Bailey, do you want to make any comment on this, or we go to the chair, Councillor Ryan?
We had some very good meetings.
Well, that's all I want to know. Is it,
I don't really have a lot to add, except obviously this is the report bringing this information through as in what's happened over this period of time. And we do these a couple of times a year to ensure that people are aware of the good work that this team are doing. Quarterly.
and no, I do have a question for the chair. As far as the applications go and so on, you know, are they consistently well oversubscribed, or are we managing things all right? How's that looking?
No, we've had a good number of applications for most of them. Yeah, we're generally well oversubscribed. But always a consistently good quality of applications coming through, which makes it difficult for us to decide. But it's good that people are aware of the grants and are applying for them for all of the great projects that they've got going on across the district.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you very much. Any other questions, Deputy Mayor Halalele?
No, just thank you for the information. I think it looks really good. I'm just keen to kind of group them into like some of our key priority areas around the strategic framework that we developed and where they would sit. There's some really good projects that are happening from community groups and schools and things around our district, and it'll be nice to show how they contribute to our strategic frameworks and the key priorities that we have identified, because they're helping to support us, support our community wellbeing, and that's what the funds are used for. So now overall looks good, well oversubscribed, but that's to be expected. And it's just another opportunity to kind of advocate for a bigger funding pool for us from the national funders. Thank you.
Just to clarify that, if we update this report to add in the community outcomes that it most directly relates to, is what you're referring to? Brilliant. And also I would also comment that there's been, a lot more advertising of most of these funds over the last year or so too, which adds to that oversubscription, which is a good problem to have as well.
Yeah, it's not an ideal problem, but it's better than that we are having a broad range of applications because people know about it rather than just the ones who consistently apply each year because they're the only ones that know that we've got it. So yeah, it's good that we're able to share the money as widely as we can. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, we'll move on to the Finance and Corporate Development Group. And Mr. Hope, hand over to you.
Thank you. So just 4 very brief points before we go to questions. I think the annual report, sort of where we were at, was well traversed at the Performance Audit and Risk Committee last week, so I won't go into that too much. The long-term plan is mentioned in a couple of places. I think it's progressing well at the component level. But we really are waiting for clearer guidance from the government about their expectations of long-term plans, particularly as they relate to the 3 waters functions. In terms of the rates rating revaluation, the key date there is the 7th of February, when the letters will be planned to have the letters go out to property owners advising them of their new value. We'll be working, our comms team will be working closely with Quotable Value to promote and explain that process, and just reminding people once again that just because your value goes up does not automatically mean that your rates go up. So again, we'll be trying to explain that. And then the last one in relation to community development, I have to say I might struggle if you've got questions in that space. Mr. Everard is unwell today, so not available. So it's only me. So it's probably where I've got a bit less visibility over what they're up to than compared to some other areas. But yes, very happy to answer any questions. No,
thank you very much. Just on the revaluations, hopefully there's some good comms go out at that same time, and just talks about the different sectors and how the increases, because they are all increasing, I believe. I don't think there's any decreases in valuations coming through, but just how that actually falls across different sectors, rural to urban to commercial, etc. Yeah, as I said, we really, I think both Quotable Values and ourselves understand the importance of trying to explain it as much as possible. So we've already started making those connections. So we're sort of talking about a consistent message. Thank you. And also just the right of appeal that people do have. Just I guess giving plenty of advance warning about that so they know before they get it that they can appeal, but obviously that's detailed in the letter that they'll have as well. Councillor Holding.
Thank you, through the chair. Mr. Hope, it's probably not in this report, but you did raise the audit and the fee reduction agreed to. But I did read somewhere that audit was further scrutinising the roading asset value increase and wanting more photos. Is that something new?
No, because of the value, both of the assets and the size of the increase, that is always an area that they put a lot of emphasis on. We were surprised at some of the information requests that we did receive this year, but it just took a little while to clarify exactly what they wanted. Some of the first requests were rather unusual, but yeah, we've sorted all of that out now.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. One on the annual report, and two on the long-term plan for the moment. Just so that people know, this report says, with regard to the annual report, that it's likely to be adopted or will be adopted by the council on the next Tuesday, the 12th. My understanding is that that's now in some doubt, or is it still going to be adopted next Tuesday? So that's question number one. The other, looking at the long-term plan, the third bullet point on this, on the first page of the report, talks about how we can't have three waters in and so on, and how the LTP document is being prepared in a way that the three waters related content is shown separately. It does seem to me that there's and also whether we move into a CCO or whatever, it does seem to me that there's a need here to actually inform the public more fully and comprehensively. And I'd ask either that you or the mayor or the chief executive in your reports to council perhaps actually give a more extensive account of these things. And the other question in relation to the LTP that I have on the next page, you talk about the change of government creating a challenging environment, and you go on to say it is important to be transparent with our community about the long-term financial forecast. When are we going to be transparent with the community? I noticed one or two other councils locally have produced some fairly alarming predictions or estimates. I'm not presuming ours, but I think we need to start having an honest conversation in a challenging environment. If we're going to be transparent, when are we going to be transparent?
So I mean, in the current timetable, that transparency would be early in the new year. I think there's still quite a number of matters that we need to discuss with yourselves before we actually go out and create a level of expectation in the community. In terms of Three Waters, I think we are trying to be as clear, but until there is a statement from the new government about what they've made a statement about what their intentions are, but how they actually operationalise that is something else. And I think that's, although we know who the minister is, I'm not sure they've had an opportunity to be briefed either by officials or by Local Government New Zealand or Taituara on some of the key issues that we're facing. So we're waiting for that. And the 12th, we are still working as quickly as we can with audit to get the annual report finalised and the audit report finished. At the moment, it is more likely that it will be the meeting after the 12th rather than the 12th.
Thank you. Mr. Chair. Yeah, I have one other question on an unrelated matter. Can I ask it now?
Yes.
Look, you just on page 40 is a reference to this community safety camera possibly being installed in a small area of the Palmerston CBD. I'm just curious to know, has been some increase in vandalism or antisocial behaviour, or what's the motivation for that, please?
Yeah, that is correct. I think there's been a number of incidents down there where community has identified that the kind of coverage that we do have available in some of the centres would have been very useful to identify the potential offenders.
There was just further to that, there was a meeting yesterday held with the community, and Mrs. Bailey or Councillor Thompson might want to elaborate a bit further on it. Some concerns, as usually happens when these discussions around privacy. It would be a similar system to what's being run in Oamaru, where everything goes back to the police station. It's not publicly viewable in any kind of way. It's deleted after 2 months. Only the police have access to it. Those sorts of things. So there's an opportunity here to help cut down on some of the crime. Hopefully, actually help it to not happen in the first place. But if it does happen, then to actually identify who's caused that. So whether it's vandalism, which has happened a number of times, whether it's even just people passing through the town that have done something elsewhere, those are useful tools for the police to track them down and get things sorted. So I think they're looking potentially at 3 cameras rather than just 1. So it is about getting different views. They're not actively monitored, so you haven't got someone sitting there following people with a camera that can move. It's basically, if something happens, they can go back and look at the footage. So, Mrs. Bailey, do you want to add anything? No, all good. Councillor Thompson, I think you may know a bit more about some of the responses.
I think in terms of the ratepayers who turned up yesterday, 80% of them were in favour of the cameras. One was concerned about, or of the objectives, one was a concern around cost rather than privacy invasion. But to give you an example of this is a result of some vandalism that's been ongoing in the CBD area of the metropolis. But a month ago, we had 2 enterprising individuals who turned up in a van with vests on in the early morning and removed installations from the side of the old railway station and the squash courts, obviously targeting the copper or brass that was in the attachments, put them in a van and drove off. So this would at least give police the ability to have a look back through the log. And
that's good. Thank you. Any other questions? No. Nothing clearly on community development. Mr. Hope's looking relieved. Thank you. Thank you to you and your team who unfortunately there's a bit of illness amongst them. It's just happening a lot at the moment around the community, so I wish them all well, Mr. Hope. Right, moving on to the health and safety update. Have we got Mr. Nelson coming?
No, he's not available.
Yeah, he's the next one that's sick.
Okay, right.
What?
So who's taking the questions on this one? I suppose we're all responsible for health and safety, so we'll all take the questions. Are there any questions, councillors? Okay, any comments that you want to make, Mr. Hope?
Oh, I think that it is showing a pretty positive trend in terms of less incidents that people are facing, and I think as we've raised in previous reports, it is really positive. I think there are less abuse incidents, which I think is they can be very challenging to deal with, and we have been doing a lot of work to actually mitigate the effects of those kinds of incidents and improve people's ability to deal with them. So I think it's good to perhaps be able to shift the focus back to more traditional health and safety matters, because they are all important and all of our responsibility.
Thank you, and something we have to step up again at some stage as the governance team and undertaking our responsibilities. There was going to be a health and safety meeting out at the airport. Has that happened?
I don't know.
Mr. Rhodes is still here. So Grant, if you, there was going to be a health and safety meeting at the airport. That's occurred?
Through the chair, yes, that has happened out there with the users, with attendance from CAA as well, and we've had a follow-up meeting since then. with the chief executive and CAA.
Right, is anything that we need to be aware of?
There's obviously certainly recommendations coming through from CAA that we're just working through at the moment. So it's probably perhaps a conversation with Alex on that, I'd say, just to get further briefed.
Yeah, I mean, it's an area where, you know, the incidents, well, the risk is high, obviously, and the consequences are high. So it'd be good to have that report looking to the leadership team, so that we can see what's happening. We need to have oversight of this activity and make sure that we feel that the right things are being done.
So just one thing on that, one thing we are working through is just the radio frequencies out there. That's been something that has been brought up from the CAA. So we've currently got a discrete aerodrome frequency underway that the CAA has been very supportive to push through. So that's looking at being implemented in the early stages of 2024. We're looking at other options available. They have a mandatory broadcast zone as a potential option as well, with radio calls. So we are working through that with CAA and our aviation advisor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCone?
With this contact grant, has there been contact with the health and safety people, that the likes of the training school runs and Heli Ventures, those guys that actually employ the health and safety guys? Have you been talking with them as well?
Yep, so we run quarterly health and safety meetings at the airport. So there's representatives from each of the businesses out there. So there's a health and safety rep from both Heli Ventures and New Zealand Airline Academy, and they both attend the meetings, are heavily involved with any recommendations and changes happening out there.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks very much for stepping in there, Grant. Appreciate that. Right, we'll now move on to communications update. And welcome, Sonia Martinez. So as we move on to that, Sonia, we have gone through it, but is there any things, any aspects you want to highlight? No, quite happy to just take questions. Okay, councillors. Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Yeah, look, too, how's the progress coming on the development of the production of the communications policy? Question one. And the other one, page 49, you talk about engagement on the Let's Talk Waitaki platform being steady, but not quite the uptake we were hoping for. I'm wondering, is that how we're doing it, or is it just consultation fatigue? What do you put that down to? Because it doesn't augur well for engagement with the LTP next year.
First question, it's the social media policy that we're concentrating on at the moment, part of the communications policy, and we're just putting that in front of the executive leadership team on Wednesday, so that's nearly ready to be signed off. And Let's Talk Waitaki, I guess it was kind of a soft launch for this engagement platform because it was the first time we're using it. So we didn't go hard on that online engagement hub side of things. We were really gearing it more towards the in-person community conversations. So it was a chance for us to try to kind of test out some of the engagement tools as the comms team. It was the first time we've used it. So we were just wanting to see how they worked and learning how to work it ourselves. I think we've had a lot greater uptake with the dog control bylaw pre-engagement that we're running. So we've already had over 150 responses to the survey in that, and quite a few people are using the other engagement tools on there. So I think it's we launched Let's Talk Waitaki with kind of a very broad just asking people about, you know, what they loved about their community and the challenges they were facing. I think we'll see bigger uptake when we've got sort of those more focused questions that have high community interest. So I'm not too worried about the engagement on that. That was sort of more of a chance for people to get familiar with it and for us to get familiar with it as well.
Yeah, just on the strategy, you know, one of the things is looking at how we do communicate some of those big issues and so on, and how we have consistency, and you know, how do we get people to notice them, I suppose, is a big part of it. But certainly with the state of the water reform at the moment, and you know what the challenges that we've got. I made some comments on the Real Radio this morning just about the you know, the debt that and so on that's going to be needed to deal with that. And I think, you know, this is because it's a problem that's nationwide, you know, having a good comm strategy around it is going to be really important as far as explaining the situation and why stuff happens. So yeah, has there been any particular work done on that aspect?
Yeah, well, connected to the long-term plan and the pre-engagement on that. So that's what we'll be we're starting on now, but we'll be moving forward with is how we frame those kind of long-term plan issues and how we communicate the challenges that we're dealing with, and the fact that it is nationwide, not so much just Waitaki. So yeah, will definitely be a big focus on the next couple of months for us.
Thank you. Councillor McCone.
Look, I'd just like to comment that what you guys are doing is excellent, because I think the biggest problem this council has is communicating with ratepayers and getting it out there. So a lot of the angst that's coming is because the information is not out there for those people that are getting angry about some of the material. So I think we've got to tell it as this, whether it's good or bad, and just get it out there and just keep it coming. And I think you're doing a wonderful job. So carry on.
I certainly concur with that, and it's not necessarily that the information's not out there. It's just so many ways of getting it to people and trying to get it, messaging to everyone is not easy these days. It's not like the good old days of one TV channel and a couple of local radio stations that everyone listened to. Right, back to the current day. Any other questions, councillors? Okay. No, well, thank you very much. Thank you for all the good work that you and your team are doing, Sonia. Great to see John out and about, and the others. Absolutely, just capturing everything that they can and reporting it to the community. So thank you. Right, councillors, now move on to economic development update, and we'll welcome Mel and Rebecca to the council chamber. So again, we have read through the material, but if there's any highlights either of you want to make, please do so.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think we'll take the report as read. Fair to say the economy is softening, as we're seeing across the country. We're seeing significant price and cost pressures. And I suppose I've brought Rebecca here today because she's working on the land diversification project, as well as people skills and business innovation project. So I thought there might be some questions that you'd like to pose around those. But happy to take any questions rather than doing more of an update. Thank you.
Okay. Councillors. Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Curtin. Look, a couple of questions. On the first page, page 50, you talk about the startups, and there's a description of the Senior Entrepreneurs Program and the Young Enterprise Scheme, to which no youth attended, or at which no youth attended. Reading that report on those two startups, it looks as though they were both rather underwhelming in terms of attendance and engagement. Is that a fair conclusion to draw from your report or not?
Press a button. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, and particularly the Young Enterprise Scheme was not very well attended. I suppose we've kind of gone back to the drawing board with that, and instead of trying to have something that's run out of high schools, we're going to do some starter programs in the new year. We're really trying to change a culture, and we're recognizing that that takes some time. The senior entrepreneurship session was well attended, and we had a follow-up workshop session with
a group that's looking to bond together and form a peer support group for senior entrepreneurs in our community going forward. Yeah.
Just supplementary to that, then through you, Mr. Chair. So if we're trying to rejig or reconfigure how we engage with young people, what do we think we got wrong first time round, and what are we doing differently to try and engage them, please?
Yes, so the Young Enterprise Scheme session was for parents, teachers and students and business owners in the district. And we had lots of business owners attending, lots of teachers, but getting the youth along was challenging. And so the approach that we have is not necessarily putting that group all together in a kind of business adult environment that might be intimidating.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think probably it's fair to mention, Councillor Hopkins, that we've been piloting some slightly different approaches for these programs and we're learning as we go. So the important thing I think on all of these programs is that we're capturing the learnings, we're evaluating, and then we're stepping back going, okay, if that didn't work, what will we do different next time? So we recognise, and that's why we're being open, that it wasn't as good as we hoped, but there's opportunities now to look to try some new approaches in the new year, which is what we'll be doing.
A couple of, very quickly, the workshop on the 7th, are we able to come along to that? And the other question on that same page 52, you talk about the 30 community-led events for the Geopark Festival. How many people attended those 30 community-led events, please?
The workshop on Thursday is fully subscribed. So we've got 40, we invited over 120. We've got 45 people participating, with a great cross-section of both council officers and businesses and community members. So it is going to be a really tight focus session, but what we will be doing is making sure that the key projects that are identified are then shared on the Let's Talk Waitaki webpage afterwards. So we're keeping the community and councillors obviously updated. In terms of the Geopark numbers, I am not close enough to the detail on that one, I have to be honest. Lisa, the Geopark manager, is doing an evaluation on that. I know certainly they were there was good attendance across the district at different events.
Thank you.
Did I have a question? Just try and find it again. The Better Off funding, you've made a few mentions of that, the Marama Master Plan, some of the implementation of that. I think some of the information is going to the community board. Do you want to just talk a wee bit about what we're looking to achieve in Marama in particular?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cindy is doing a great job, and I think it's exciting that we're trialing a new approach so that it really is community bottom-up driven. So a project team has been stood up in Marama. 3 opportunities have been identified. We're already making progress on one small piece, which is looking at parking improvements outside the retail area, which is, as we know, come summertime is major congestion issues. So there's a trial being put up there. But the most exciting project is looking at a new playground, accessible and natural playground. And the vision there is that it can become a destination playground. So we actually pull people in from Twizel and up the valley. So really an opportunity to get the right group of people together. I know the schools have already reached out to Cindy and said, hey, we would like the school kids to be involved. Newmat, we've having some discussions with them. So I think there's a really nice opportunity to do something really quite different and impactful there. So Cindy's working that through, and they've got regular project meetings. And I don't know if Councillor Coles wants to say anything else, but we're excited that we can make a difference. And sharing the learnings from Ota Matata has been really helpful too.
Councillor Coles.
I've got very little voice again today, but I just would like to say that, yeah, it is really refreshing to see the community-led side of stuff happening, and yeah, there's some real excitement and momentum starting to happen within that. The emails, the community board being involved. It's been a really cool process to go through and quite a different approach, but it seems to be getting a lot of community buy-in, particularly, as you say, the schools now wanting the kids to have some input into the design. And I mean, who better than get the kids to come and have a look at it? So awesome, great work, thank you.
You also make mention of the North End roading upgrades, which we were getting 5.2 million from Waka Kotahi, which is now on hold. Talking about doing some of the other options with the 70,000 we've allocated to improving or make some improvements in the North End around streetscape and so on. Is there any indication you can give about what type of things you're looking at with that?
At this stage, we're still waiting to get some clarity from the government whether that funding is going to go ahead. We will kick off a project in the new year, and depending on how well the workshop goes this week for Oamaru CBD revitalisation, we might well have a similar kind of process up there and get community and business input into what they would like to see. We've had some initial internal discussions, but looking specifically at how we can do some better storytelling and how we might use those intersections to bring some of the stories of that part of the town to life. But it's still very early stages, and we're keen to see if that money is available, because if it is, then obviously we can do more. If not, then we'll work with the other council officers and look at other budgets that are there and to see if there's a way that we can, link and leverage those budgets.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question around the land use and optimisation and exploration you're doing. I've had anecdotal feedback that the farmers, for want of a better term, who are supporting this, have also identified the need to integrate with manufacturing locally. Can you give me some more information on that, please?
Yes, thank you. One of the strengths that we have in the district is a really solid manufacturing base, and the landowners that we're working with recognise that there can be more value for the district as a whole if we're able to own big pieces of the value chain. So we can really leverage the work that we're doing around land use diversification if we're able to pull in the manufacturing businesses, look at innovative ways that we can process the products that we're growing.
And just to build on that, the farmers that we're working with are very clear that they don't want to just grow the products, they actually want to click the fuller value chain. And so taking it to a higher value add ingredient is a desirable next step. So we're still at the early stages of this project where we're still working through, so what are the new crops that we're going to look at? But we're making good progress, and we're comfortable that this is going to be a game changer if we get it right, so we don't want to rush it.
Yeah, it's potential to hit all pieces of economic development in terms of skill building and innovation, attracting new business, supporting current businesses is huge.
That's good, thank you. Anything else? Councillor Holden.
Thank you. I was just questioning on the district identity and Waitaki story. Is that with that initiative, do you imagine bringing that back to council for a closer look at it, or is it, how developed is it?
We're at the early stages of that. We've developed a brief which essentially says, let's develop a very clear value proposition for the district, and let's develop a narrative that can then inform signage and all aspects of placemaking and putting our district on the map. At this stage, we've had a really good discussion with the Runaka a couple of weeks ago, where they have committed to go and develop a cultural narrative. We're still working with them to find out what the timeline is on that. In tandem, we are working internally on developing stories and collating all the township stories and the stories that are important for the district. And we have a meeting actually on Friday with Heritage New Zealand and the arts and culture team. We're not at the stage yet to bring anything back, but certainly when we get to a stage where we're going, well, this is the plan and this is the timeline, that will certainly be part of an update.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, thank you both for coming along and for all the update on the information. That's very much appreciated, and keep up your good work. Thank you. Right, councillors, on to the assets group. Usually a 5-minute topic. 25-minute maybe. And we've got Mr. Hope as group manager here, and we've got Mr. Rhodes And we're waiting on a few other managers perhaps to come, but so we'll get things underway on this one. So Mr. Hope, you want to introduce it?
It's a very loquacious. And then we'll immediately go to Mr. Rendell.
Hi, everyone. Just for the sake of time limits, I understand we're under time restraints today. We'll just hand over to any questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Councillor Hopkins, for a change.
Well, I'm sorry, Mick.
No, you've done well restraining yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look, I do have a number, 3 in fact. Page 60, there's a reference to under community housing, the last sentence, staff are working with a small number of tenants to manage the new payments to become embedded. I read that to mean that there are some people experiencing significant hardship. Is that the case? The next question is on the next page, and it's just basically, it refers to the, well, there's 2 things. There's the new underground services being reticulated to the Holmes Wharf sheds. And I just asked why, because at the moment we don't appear to have identified any potential uses for them. And the other thing is on that same page, how much of the work that we wanted to do on the Ops to Ocean by way of repair and resilience have we had to leave out? You're saying that the price difference we've had to redefine, and I presume that means cut back. So we're only focusing on the bottom section. So what are we missing out on as a consequence of the cost escalations?
With respect to the Ops to Ocean repairs, I can't specifically tell you which areas we're not doing. What I can say is that we just scaled back works to obviously meet the budget. We're doing all of the major resilience aspects we wanted to include, the installation of additional bridges, etc. But some of the work, as far as top dressing and the like, may not be completed within the repairs and resilience budget. Well, I missed your second question, sorry, but I'll hand over to Grant to
Just,
cover the community housing.
it talks about underground services being articulated to the Holmes Wharf sheds.
Yep.
I just did why.
Okay, I can answer that one and the community housing one. So Holmes Wharf, obviously we had street lights and mains power onto the wharf. That was unsafe, so all the power poles have been removed before they fell down. The reason we're providing new reticulated power and other services, we want to reinstate streetlights along the wharf so it's safe for public and boaties and so forth. We also want to have power out to the buildings so we can have a use for those buildings, and there's also the berth holders that do use power and so forth. So there is the option while we're running the new services to put in new sewer and water and fibre, so it'll future-proof every use out on the wharf. And we've got proposals closing next week for some contractors to come and do the civil works associated with the new reticulation.
Just on that, I'd say, there's certainly been good support from the community to actually put the services out. People were saying, hope they're putting lights back in. People saying, there needs to be those services run out to the sheds. They're talking about what the use of the sheds could be. So, it's certainly better to do it now while we've got a trench open and get those services in. And hopefully, is the expectation we'll advertise for expressions of interest for the sheds? Do we put a for lease sign up on it? What are we doing?
Yes, absolutely, and it's part of our first tranche of the property strategy and reviewing some of those assets too. But certainly that is the intention. We wanted to get the wharf so it was safe, structurally safe, and the deck's done. And the next step is the services, so they'll be going out, pretty shortly in the new year for expressions of interest. We're at this stage, and there's already been a couple people approach us as well. All that.
No, thank you.
Okay. So then, nothing else on Holmes Wharf.
Community housing.
Yep, community housing. Oh, just one other thing on Holmes Wharf. There will be an email going out to the Harbour Area Committee just for decision around the style and look of the streetlights, just to make sure the Harbour Area Committee is happy with what's been proposed. So expect that in due course.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So with the community housing, I wouldn't say, I think it was a very well-run process. Putting the rents up, they're still obviously only 85% of the market rental, apart from what we probably saw in the newspaper. That seems to be an absolute minority issue. that person didn't attend the meetings and so forth. So I think all in all, we haven't really had much kickback at all, and most people have taken it very well. There is government departments that can assist with topping up on accommodation allowances and so forth. So we haven't really had too much adverse feedback in the property team regarding that.
Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Holding.
Just the Kakanoi Bridge renewal, getting asked if I see here, we've given the information to Grace for the meeting, but just for the wider community, I've been getting asked a few questions about what's happening with the other bridge and bits and pieces when it's going done, but I don't know if we've advertised it wide enough or far enough. Or I might be wrong.
No, we can certainly take that comment on board and try to improve some of our communications. At the moment, we don't have a defined plan of what the new bridge is going to look like. We're currently working through that process, as well as what will remain of the existing bridge. Certainly all indications at the moment look as though the existing bridge will have to be removed to facilitate the new bridge to be constructed. We're currently there undertaking geotechnical investigations to determine what the footings of the bridge need to look like. But there is still a long way to go until we have a finalised design, which we can then have a more engaging discussion with the community.
As one of the 20,000 unqualified bridge engineers in the district, I'd just like to say that, yeah, I mean, the challenges with the old bridge haven't gone away. It is still not safe. It's still prone to, block up during flooding events and so forth. I can't see any other solution other than that it is removed. But I think we need to be upfront on that, because otherwise it's just going to be an ongoing additional cost to council. So any conversation we have with the community needs to be framed in that way. Any other questions? Councillor McCone.
On page 62, Josh, I've said looking forward, you've got advertising tenders for the Oamaru Public Gardens water play. Is that still going to go ahead, or is that on hold, or what's going on there?
Yes, yep. So obviously we are advertising tenders at the moment. Prices, I'm not aware whether prices have come back yet or not. We are looking to proceed with that project. Obviously, we've had some donations granted to the project, as well as some funds from council. The project's been a long time coming. So looking to proceed unless council had other minds to do something different.
Just another question from me. Just on page 61, you mentioned the damaged toilet at Kutaki Street has been replaced. So was that just a straight out insurance claim, or what happened there?
Yes, I believe it was an insurance claim. Yes.
We never found the culprit that bolted over.
No, apparently it's a shared vehicle, and as the police were unable to identify who was driving it at the time, they were declined to pursue the matter any further.
Thank you. Councillor McCone.
Sorry, just one other question. Alps Ocean, it says, where did I see that? The
page 61.
Yeah, page 61. The maintenance contract starts on the 15th of January, the new one. Have we got preferred tenders or preferred people for that job, or how's that going to work?
It's been appointed.
We're still working through the final stages of assessment on that one, so I can't actually give any specifics on whether we've got or how many preferred people we might have. But certainly at the moment we do look as though we've got parties that we can work with on the contract. It does look as though it's a positive outcome for us, which is good.
Are we looking at one contractor or a number of contractors across the length of the trail?
So when we put it together, we looked at the three sections of the trail, and we offered people the opportunity to come in and either provide services for all of the trail, or two sections or three, depending on what they'd like to do. As I said, we're still moving through the assessment process. I can't yet tell you how many we actually have identified.
No, thank you. Anything else? Just note we've got Mr. Pacey in the background there. We're really keen to answer some questions on water. Probably just a progress update on the South Hill tank. Still everything going all right on that one?
Yeah, just in response to your question, Mayor Kutcher. Yeah, everything's going well with the South Hill. They'll start doing some geotechnical work shortly and plan on kicking into building it early in the new year.
And yeah, I think this sounds like there's been good communication with neighbours and so forth, so no particular issues there.
In response to your question, yeah, there's no issues at all. We've been engaged with them early and continue to engage with them as we go through the process. They'll also have some input into planting and stuff as well.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, a couple of questions on water, and thank you very much for, Josh and Grant, for your other report just now. Page 66, 65, you're talking about Te Mata Arawai requiring protozoa barriers, which we're now going to put in place by December of next year from Bushy Creek, Awahukumu, Awamoko, Kauru Hill, Lako House, Stoneburn, Tokarahi and Windsor. Can we have a cost estimate for that, please? And the other question I had on the next page, it relates to the designations and the three waters facilities you've got. Now, my understanding with designations, as a designating authority can tell a district council, it wants something done and included in a plan. So I'm just curious to know, given that the designating authority has the power to dictate to a council, is the consultation with landowners a courtesy? Because I wouldn't have thought you were required to do that. But so can you explain why it's happening, please?
Yeah, through the chair. The first one, costings for protozoa barriers, we'll be bringing that back to council early in the new year. And with the plan of how we're going to do it, there's an option of either installing the barriers or getting approval from Te Mata Arawai to a date as to what we're going to be doing. So that'll occur shortly in the new year. And the designations, we can require. In the first instance, we want as much a courtesy to run it past them, and then work out what we need to do after that.
Thank you. Councillor Percival, and then Councillor McCain, and then Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, Marty, can you identify what and where the rural water mains are being renewed or replaced or upgraded, and what areas?
Through the chair, largely south of Oamaru, but they're connected to the Oamaru network. There's I think about 10 kilometres of small diameter water mains that are getting renewed that are just been leaky over time. Some of them are connected to the old Hampden supply. So there's, I think it's about $1.2 million worth of renewals that are occurring, and they're well overdue, to be honest. It's something that's been pushed out in favour of drinking water upgrades, that sort of thing.
Yeah, supplement to that, would that be obviously connected to the HAMNAC scheme? Would that have put that infrastructure under pressure?
Through the chair, all the connections to the HAMNAC scheme have pressure reducing valves on them. So we have increased the pressure in the main line down there, but it gets reduced back down, so it doesn't cause any more pressure than was currently there.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor McCain.
Sorry, guys, covered off the rural water mains, but the septic tank cleaning matter, could you talk me through that? I thought that would be a private thing for those that own it. And secondly, the flow prevention, is that cost recovery, a lot of that work?
Yeah, through the chair, the Hamnack thing was a result of about 15 years ago, the Medical Officer of Health coming to council and saying, you've got an issue in Hampden, you need to put in a surge scheme. And we looked at it at the time, it appeared to be too expensive for the properties. It was at the time, I think it was about $30,000 a property. So council decided that we would facilitate and pay for through the amenity rate to ensure that the septic tanks were maintained and cleaned and up to the right standard. And this is just the second round of cleaning that we're proposing to do, and it's paid for by the Hampden community.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that leads nicely, or segues nicely into my question, Mr. Pacey, is we undertook that we were going to do a study on where we're going with sewerage in Hampden. I'd just like to ask where that is in our program of works. And the other question probably relates to what Councillor Percival was asking, but at what level is it, or what level of leaks are acceptable in our network before we actually have to get in and fix or replace what's happening?
Sorry, one question I missed with Councillor McCone was the backflow prevention. We're bringing a paper back to council next week, so we'll cover off how that cost recovery is going to work with the consumers. And Hampden, yes, it is on our program of works. It hasn't been initiated yet. It's not the sort of works that council officers would undertake. Outside consultants do those design studies, and it hasn't made it to the top of the pile yet, but it is there for sure. And I would have been surprised if somebody didn't ask that question. And what was the other one, sir?
What level of leakage is acceptable before we look at replacing or repairing what's going on?
Yes, so through the chair to answer your question around leakage, it's an economic equation generally, unless it's causing nuisance to properties. So if it's more effective to continue to repair it from an economic perspective, a whole life cycle cost, then that's what we do. If it's knackered and costing us more to repair it than replace, then we replace.
I think Wellington could add, or if it's making the front page, they should probably replace it as well. But, back to you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a supplementary on, do we have a figure around what we're losing in leakage in the currently in the system?
Through the chair, there is a calculation that's done, and it's reported through our annual report process. Ranges between 20 and 50%, which are called unaccounted for water use, and it could be that restrictors are worn and people are using more water than they're allowed, or it could be through leakage. It's reasonably standard for councils.
Thank you. Just a question from me, and it's not water, it's I'm not sure if it's roading or property or where it belongs, but the harbour footpath is about to be resealed. I think work started on resealing that. I've looked, I haven't seen any word of, any notification to us that that was about to happen, but also just note that, it's questionable whether that should have been a priority, but it's being done. But alongside there's things like seating and various bits and pieces. We seem to be very focused on just the path itself, and not had a look too much at anything that's around that. And I just wonder whether maybe we need to be getting into that transformational thinking about what else, while we're doing this, what else should we be doing, and the opportunity to maybe seal under some of those seats and so forth to actually reduce maintenance and make them look tidier and so on as well, would be options. But could we have an update on that project, and had we been notified that that was being done? I know it's just a maintenance project as such, but it's a fairly public one.
I can't speak too much for roading, but I have had some comms come through that they are planning on getting the chip sealing done on the path prior to Christmas. I have observed Whitestone down there doing some prep work in the last week, so I don't think it's too far away. If you've got some specific areas in mind, whether that could be passed through to roading for consideration.
Yeah, I think it just seems like wasted opportunity to not be looking more holistically at it. But like, when you're putting the lighting, cabling and, putting those other services in, it's good thinking and looking more holistically at the particular project.
Yeah.
So I'll have a chat after this with you. Councillors, any other questions from any of the assets group? So, you have a comment?
I think just as hopefully a closing comment, there was a sort of an incident down at the toilets in Friendly Bay, but I think didn't really want to highlight that, but really did want to acknowledge that the situation could have probably been significantly worse if it wasn't for sort of the quick response of a member of the public, and it's just wanted to acknowledge that, and really. If people see something, the sooner they report it, then the sooner it can be mitigated, and really at times can really significantly reduce the cost and inconvenience to others. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I think it might have been a tourist that actually did it, but could have been much worse. And great that the police have already spoken to the people responsible, and certainly had communications from one of the sets of parents as well, around having a meeting with them and their child. So we'll see how that all goes. Things like that impact on the community a lot. It impacts staff a lot. It's work you don't need, but it's actually a slap in the face to everyone involved that people feel that they can do that sort of damage and create that sort of cost. So just acknowledge the work that staff have done and the police have done and getting it sorted out as quickly as possible. And I believe compensation or costs will be covered by the three lots of parents. So it sort of ended a lot better than it might have otherwise. So thank you for that. Thank you to you, Paul, and your team for being here today, for all the updates and what is a very busy time for council generally. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll finish this council activity update, and we'll be having a bit of a break while we switch over, and we'll be starting the district plan review subcommittee. We'll be reconvening that meeting that was adjourned yesterday. So hopefully around 10:30, 10:35, we'll be starting that. So thank you very much, everyone who's joined on the live stream as well.